Yo, Fling here with DFS Army. We're doing a Week 17 Millie Maker review. We're going to look at the leaderboards, the top 10 lineups, the winning lineup. And by the way, the top 10 lineups are actually filled with some DFS pros. So I want to dive into their MME strategy, see what they did to attack the slate. Let's get into it. All right. So Big Diamond J, single bullet in the Millie Maker, won it all. And it was a you know, let Baker bake kind of day. Yeah, Baker was definitely baking on this slate. 37 DraftKings points. And I'm going to tell you, when we look at these top 10 lineups, and, if you played the slate, pretty much any contest you were in, Baker was, either top of the leaderboard. Some maybe Drew Lock snuck in, but he was either the top of the leaderboards or, one of the first few lineups for sure. And a lot of the builds were different. And that was what was cool about it. I saw, Baker to Bucky and Mike Evans, as we saw here. There was also Baker to to Bucky Evans and McMillan. So, and even some Payne Durham. Durham got a touchdown. So it was a Baker day. He threw 5 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor got there, but as well as a one-off. But this lineup was really Baker +2 with the Adam Thielen bring back. So this was a game stack. It's good to see just traditional DFS stacking. Love to see that. And then I guess we did have a secondary stack here with Devonta Smith and the Philly D. So Devonta Smith, 33 points. He was one of the top leverage plays on the slate at only 5% ownership. And then Philly D, kind of chalky, but pay up option that paid off 19 points. So that was a good little secondary stack. And we've been seeing that more and more, the wide receiver stacked with the defense. So it definitely correlates like a running back. If the team is scoring points, a lot of points, they are forcing the other team to, take chances to try to come back and win the game. And when you have a good secondary like Philly does, you can capitalize on that team being aggressive. The pass rush, causing the quarterback to make bad decisions, as we saw with Cooper Rush going against Philly. So, Baker +2 with a bring back. Another secondary stack. We had Jonathan Taylor as a one-off. And then, I think was what made this lineup come together was double tight end, Juwan Johnson and Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin, I think you can make an argument he was the top leverage play on the entire slate because he was only 2,900 and he was the top scoring tight end. So you just think about like a lineup construction. He's 2,900, 2% owned, top scoring tight end. And the Juwan Johnson, Tyler Conklin combo, they combine for an average of 3,200 salary. So these are the savings that you need for a Baker Mayfield, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Mike Evans start, where all these players, their average is about 7,200. So, just think about why we like the double tight end build here and there. Now it fails at a high rate, but when it hits, this is the result. You get all these guys who, are priced around 7K together in a lineup that obviously have a lot of floor and ceiling, and they delivered for us in this spot. So a really good lineup, 241 points. After such a slow start to the season, we now have the past 4 weeks of the season, we've averaged 255 points. So the scoring has been up. It's been promising. It's been good to see. Hopefully that'll continue into 2025. But it's definitely been up. I think right now the seasonal average is 228. It was so low that it's shot up like 8 points with the 255 average we've had over the last month of the season. But we like seeing the scoring being back a little bit. This was obviously a chalky lineup that really got different with the double tight end build. It was a contrarian double tight end build, and then also had Devonta Smith at 5% ownership. So love seeing that. We'll go right in the second guy, Colorado Rev. I mean, good for you, dude. I love seeing Colorado peeps do well. I know Colorado represents DFS very well. I'm from Colorado myself. Yeah, again, like I said, it was the Baker plus Bucky plus Evans, but this one had Jalen McMillan in it, so plus 3. And he was first place, just ran away with it. He was 9 points behind first place. But very close with like second, third, fourth. He had the Conklin and the Abdullah. So, really did well overall. Just didn't have the defense that you needed. You needed Philly and obviously Conklin at 2,900, providing the 21 that he did. That really supersedes Amir Abdullah in Las Vegas. But that's a nice stack. And, it's a really good lineup for him. And like I said, Drew Lock, some Drew Lock's lineups snuck in whatever contest you were to be the winning stack. It was locked to Neighbors. Also saw locked to Neighbors to Wandale. Who would have thought? I tell you, as a Broncos fan, I've seen this scenario before. Drew Lock, when your team has a premium pick on the line and you could potentially get a franchise altering quarterback like Joe Burrow, like Justin Herbert could have, the Broncos could have got either of those two guys in 2020. What's Drew Lock going to do? He's going to come out and play his best football. He's going to knock you out of that spot, and then he's going to go right back to sucking. And that's what Drew Lock probably will do week 18 if he starts. And but on week 17, it was locked to Neighbors. I think Lock had 4 touchdowns. And good stack. Obviously, there were no bringbacks. It was Amir Abdullah and Jacoby Myers. Secondary stack. Actually, there was Lock to Neighbors and a JT bringback. My mistake there. Thielen, Bucky Irving, another secondary stack. Looking like Chig as a one-off in Philly D, 231 points. Now, we're going to look at Hoops MME strategy here in a second because Hoop 2410 is a top DFS player. And this one had Mayfield to Irving to McMillan. So I get the thought process here. Looking for direct leverage. I did this in some of my Baker lineups. Obviously, had a lot of Evans too, but what if all the tutties go elsewhere? They don't go to Mike Evans. Wide receiver chalk fails a lot, obviously. And yeah, this one had JT. So JT was a staple of all these lineups. Baker or not, JT was in the winning lineup in a lot of these, in all these top five, 30 points. Brian Thomas Jr. had a good day, not a sensational day like Evans or Neighbors, but still a good day. Or Thielen as well. He had a great day. Pittman had a great day. Smashed all the Josh Downs chalk. Pittman was the guy you wanted at 10% ownership. That's thinking about that in terms of direct to leverage. Then we had Chig here. Did enough. 10 points at 3,600 did enough, especially on this slate. So that was his top lineup. Of course, we'll look at his MME strategy here in a second. We had a Joe Flacco lineup. Flacco plus Taylor plus Pittman with a Neighbors bring back. That's definitely one way to play it. That's the way I played it. I had no Drew Lock and, had quite a bit of Flacco. And, a lot of the same names. A lot of the same names. Baker plus Irving plus Evans plus McMillan. So same thing. Moreau caught a tutty, so that was pretty good. Just not quite enough flames. Jacksonville, 9 points there. Need a little bit more. Baker, Bucky, Evans, and McMillan. That was a pretty common stack yesterday. And if you need Tampa to score a lot of points for a stack like that to get there, and they certainly did. And it was a great matchup for them to do so against Carolina. TJ Hawkinson with this build, Neighbors, McMillan. So you're seeing a lot of the same names. However, in this one, Tajay Spears got involved. He might have had a bigger day. This lineup might have made it further had he not, got a concussion. I think that he left that game early, which really sucked because he was just shy of the bonus. So very tilting for the general JI. And let's see, we're at number 9 here. We got Baker Mayfield again. This one had Payne Durham in it, so 11 points, not enough, but the double tight end, so it was pretty close. You just, I think this is kind of very similar to what took it down. Actually, really, you're just seeing a 1-versus-1 here with what took it down, and that's with Jordan Addison and Devonta Smith. And obviously a little bit different at tight end because the other lineup had Jawan Johnson. So it was really a 2-versus-2. But, the big difference here would have been just swapping Devonta Smith for Jordan Addison. So so close. You have to have the perfect lineup really to win these things, and that's how that thing goes. That was actually one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Why does it say seven? Should be nine. And then Richard, another 150 maxer with Baker, McMillan, Payne, Durham. So not enough there from that stack. 229 points, but overall, really good. A lot of correlation here. Had the Adam Thielen bring back as well. Again, needed more from Spears. Good BTJ in the flex, so I like that. Let's go ahead and we're gonna look at MMA strategy of some top DFS pros. What did they do to attack this slate? And what were their what did they do in the flex? Did they play a lot of running back, a lot of wide receiver, a lot of tight end in the flex? Were they doing QB plus two, QB plus one, QB plus three? And as you can see here, the Colts is the top DFS pro, and he had a QB plus two. But yeah, I want to see like what were their fades, who were they way over on. So right now, his top lineups look to be Drew Lock lineups, and it's interesting because a lot of times you look at these top lineups and you'll be like, oh, well, they played a ton of Drew Lock. And then you look at their exposures and they really didn't. It's just Drew Lock had a great day. So a lot of his obviously top lineups were at the top of the leaderboards here with Drew Lock. But clearly targeted this game, at least, these top performing lineups did. Flacco, Downs, Pittman with a Wandale and Neighbors bring back. So every one of these so far, we've seen Wandale in the flex. And it's been all wide receiver in the flex, and we've got a little bit of QB plus two. QB, it's all been QB plus two, actually. Let's see how that continues. Huntley plus one, Tyreek Hill. And that makes sense because you don't need necessarily Huntley to get there with plus two. And a Tyreek was really the best option with Waddle being out. Flacco plus two, Baker plus three. Okay, so a little bit of everything, right? And all these we've seen wide receiver in the flex. That one's got tight end, wide receiver, tight end. So not really seeing a ton of running back in the flex. I'm guessing the running back exposures won't be super high, just based on that. But let's take a look here. All right. So top exposure was Sam Darnold, who had a good day. Not a great day, but a good day. Flacco, Rudolph, 14%. So really under the field on Baker, actually faded Baker and faded Love. And I understand that strategy, just fading shot quarterbacks. That's one of the best ways to, I think, really to leverage the field. Especially if it's a stack. If we're talking chalk stacks, now, only had 3% Drew Lock, but yeah, like I said, we saw several Drew Lock lineups. He was actually over the field on Flacco. So seeing those lineups near the top, that was an accurate representation of the Colts' portfolio. We have Tajay Spears eating that chalk, eating the Bucky chalk, being a little under on it, but not really enough. Not that I would call it a fade for sure. 8% below a 44% player. That's playing a lot of him still. It's negative leverage, but it's still a significant amount. And then kind of the same thing with Saquon, played Saquon in almost a fourth of his lineups. Now, did fade almost full fade Jonathan Taylor, and that was not the move you wanted. And honestly, if he had got more Taylor, might have won the thing. Certainly was close. And Aaron Jones, God, he let me down. I had so many lineups that were like sitting at like 190, 195, and just with Aaron Jones to go, I was like, man, we just need a big game from Aaron Jones, and it did not come. Jacobs did not do nearly enough either. So, ate the value running back chalk, faded Jonathan Taylor, and was a little bit under on Saquon Barkley, was over on Jones, over on Jacobs. Now, wide receiver, positive leverage on Mike Evans, a little bit positive leverage on Downs, but you wanted to fade Downs. Now, he had positive leverage with Pittman, who was really the guy you wanted. So, overall did quite well here with the neighbors. Too much Shakir. I understand that though in that spot. Um, Jefferson didn't have a great day. Ridley was okay. So, nothing really to write home about with the wide receivers. Now, I will say a couple spots where that really helped the Colts is being under on Reed and on Wicks and on Dobbs. Really, just that whole crew. You wanted more McMillan. You actually wanted McMillan, more Adam Thielen. Um, so yeah, honestly, I think wasn't like the best day decision wise for the Colts, but did have that one lineup right that kind of peaked out towards the top of the leaderboards with the 226. And then, yeah, other than that, it was 184. So, other than that, it was pretty low scoring as far as GPPs go. So, that lineup was 10th place. And then next one was 5,600 place. So, um, not too bad. Not too bad. Now, I saw JBC here. Now, honestly, I'm not sure how it goes. I think StatSational is a partner in this account. But it's from there's another guy, JBC69, who claims this account. So I'm not sure how it works, but nonetheless, DFS Pro and had a great day. Almost got there in the Millie Maker. Saw him win actually the other Millie contest. It was like the 3,300 one, and so yeah, I think won 1.5 million for second place rather. But this was a Baker, McMillan, and Payne Durham. Like I said, very close to being the stack that you needed. Now, the problem is you do a double with Shig, and if you had you done a Conklin there, it would have certainly been better. But other than that, had a lot of the right pieces. You needed Bucky versus Saquon, and you needed Evans. So a lot of right pieces, but just missed it. Top lineup was 224. Second lineup was 196. So not a huge fall off between the two. It's often just one player difference that gets you there. Like, yeah, that lineup had neighbors, and this lineup did not have neighbors. So, that's a big difference right there. But let's take a look at user exposures real quick. So, kept the pool pretty tight. Darnold, Flacco, and then a little under on Baker, but 16%. Those are the three highest exposure guys. Not a lot of quarterbacks. Most of these guys around 4 or 5%, almost 10% on Jordan Love. So yeah, I mean, I was on a lot of these same guys. We were on a lot of these same guys at DFS Army. By the way, guys, if you want to support DFS Army, you like these kind of breakdowns, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Comment. Let me know who you played on the slate. Really appreciate it. It really helps the algorithm. So Bucky Irving was the top exposure. It's looking like here 52%. Some Tajay, some JT, little under, not far. Even with the field on Saquon, Aaron Jones, and Brees Hall. So, nailed the Bucky play for sure. Nothing really bad here. Enough JT, 21%. JT is good. Little under on Tajay. Saquon did okay. Wasn't tournament winning value. Didn't have a ton of Jacobs. Just Brees Hall, that kind of hurts. And then Aaron Jones. Everything else was really good. And you're not going to nail every one of these calls. But yeah, the downs is what really hurt JBC from probably winning the whole thing. 54% downs. That was too much for a guy that failed. But made up for a lot of it and ended up having a profitable day because of that 38% Pittman. So specifically, if you had, and we'll look at some of the lineups here. fact, let's do it now before I forget. But specifically, if you had a good amount of lineups with Pittman just as a one off, or um, Joe Flacco to Pittman, but without Downs, like those lineups would have did well. Or as a bring back, right? Drew Lock to Malik Neighbors and maybe a Pittman bring back. So this one had Flacco, Pittman, and Jonathan Taylor. So yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. Downs crushed those lineups, but because he didn't have a ton of Flacco, Pittman, and Downs together, I think it overall went really well. And that's just kind of like that positive leverage that you're looking for. Sometimes you want QB plus two, but you don't want all of the lineups to be QB plus two, right? Sometimes if it could just be QB plus one, you're not keeping yourself out of a win or out of, in this case, the profitable day. So where were we here? Good amount of Justin, Jefferson, and Addison. That's no surprise with Darnold. Good amount of Wicks. I had a lot of Wicks too. That's my biggest regret of the slate is I had way too much Green Bay. I had Wicks, I had Reed, I had Dobbs. I had too much love. It's just very disappointing watching them misfire on offense all day. Good day to have Evans. Good day to have over 25 quarter of your lineups with Evans in them. McMillan, have to fill there. Faded Thielen. So the good job fading Jaden Reed. Um, wanted more Thielen, wanted more McMillan. Overall, some really good calls. Just kind of burned on the downs play the most. But like I said, a lot of top 10 um, moves, top 10 decisions, finished 15th. And overall, I know it was an incredible day for JVC on this slate. And yeah, same thing. Jake Ferguson, I played a lot of him, wish I hadn't. Also played Durham, also played, Conklin and Chig. So ended up being positive in that regard. A lot of defense there. So we're going to finish out with Hoop 2410. Let's look at his MME strategy real quick, and then we will wrap this thing up. Top five finish. So, and this is so his top lineup we already went over, but just to refresh ourselves, Mayfield, Irving, and McMillan. So without the Evan. Now, I'm not sure if this was calculated or not. You never can tell without asking the player, the DFS player. But in this regard, this was just getting different a little bit because a lot of people are going to be playing Mayfield to Evans. So this one had Bucky Irving in with Mayfield, which is different in itself, even though they're both chalk. Not a ton of people are going to do that. And had Jalen McMillan. So went for the pay down. Now, so we're seeing Baker, obviously, 20% Baker, so good amount of Baker and Darnold. So kept a tight player pool, 7 quarterbacks, and was mainly Darnold, Baker, Flacco, Love, and Allen. Those guys were all above 10%. Darnold was clearing away the furthest, most ownership, and then Baker. Now, at running back, this was interesting because it was a tight pool over on Bucky and Spears. So wanted to eat that chalk. And it's okay to eat chalk. Running back value chalk specifically. I think where chalk fades a lot is wide receivers. That chalk fades more often than not. And, you got to think of ways to get different with your lineup if you are playing, mega chalk pieces like this. So then you're going to have to make hard stands at like wide receiver. Now, he played a lot of Barkley too. So, a lot of exposure to 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 or 5 backs, 25% or more. 3 backs, 40% or more. 4 backs, 33% or more. So a lot of exposure to these guys. Aaron Jones is really what hurt him from this group. And almost was even with Jonathan Taylor. So it was pretty good. Now, wide receiver. Who are going to be the fades? So faded Reed, Was under on I hate when I do that. Under on Thielen, basically even on Evans, and not far under on Jalen McMillan. So yeah, weren't really any hard fades at wide receiver from what I'm seeing. Now, this also won't show you the guys he had 0% on. Now, while I will say I was surprised by this, had a lot of Pittman in downs, 32%, 48% downs, but no Pierce. I thought maybe he'd want to plug in some Pierce in case Pierce was the guy you needed deep, right? Or Adonai Mitchell. Didn't see any of him either. Nothing else really stands out. I'm trying to think of all the wide receivers on the slate. Brian Thomas Jr. was a big one. Um, Malik Neighbors. Did he really fade Neighbors? Okay. So now that I see it, there's zero Neighbors. So Neighbors was his call of the slate to fade at wide receiver. And you didn't want to do that, actually. So yeah, that was the big fade. He has Jefferson, he has Addison, he has Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, Ridley. He's got some Ridley. Those were the chalk wide receivers. Evans, along with Evans, Thielen, and Downs. So yeah, full faded Neighbors, crazy. But it takes guts like that. And honestly, had Neighbors had a bad day, might be talking about Hoop 2410 winning the Millie. A lot of Ferguson, a lot of Hawkinson, a lot of Payne Durham. So yeah, tight end was pretty clear on the slate, minus like Tyler Conklin. He was kind of the pay down guy you really needed. And then Las Vegas, I think that made sense against New Orleans at their price at 2,600. So yeah, good day, fun slate. Like I said, high scoring is back, and that is exciting for DFS, of course, specifically large field GPPs. The Millie Maker, we had such a low start to the season, so it's really fun to see some higher scores to finish everything out. And yeah, I think we're gonna go into week 18. Look at all the scenarios, the teams that have something to play for, and we got one more chance at this thing before it's over, and we're looking at playoff DFS and playoff best ball and all that. So thank you for joining me for another week in review. Hit the like button while you're here and make sure to subscribe to the channel. We got showdowns coming at you rapid fire. We got, first looks for the main slate. We got Saturday 2 gamer. So a lot more DFS coming your way as we get into the final month of the season. So playoffs included. So we'll see you next time. Take care.